BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, I'm Jonathan Sutherland, and this is the Scottish Football Podcast, getting you up to speed with all the essential news, views, and analysis. It's Friday, the 6th of September, and another defeat for Scotland.
Gunn waits in his line. Now comes Zalewski, and he scores! Only just. Gunn guessed correctly, but it slips away from his fingers into the side of the net.
But despite the loss to Poland, what were the positive signs for Steve Clarke's side as they look to bounce back from their Euros disappointment?
Ralston fires it back and McTominay scores! Scotland back from the dead here!
We'll discuss where the men's national team go from here, and
looking to get him behind the Motherwell here, and Timms might finish it off. So easy for Hearts, and Timms is on the score sheet for the first time since the opening day.
we'll take a quick look at a big Edinburgh derby in the SWPL.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sport Scotland.
We are joined today by the former Scotland goalkeeper, just the 203 caps, Gemma, and sports editor for the Scotsman, Mark Atkinson. Gemma, very briefly, if you will, what is your mood this morning after that Scotland defeat last night at Hampden?
I'm confused. I'm confused because we played so well, and I'm probably a little bit like Grant Hanley at this moment in time, walking around in a circle. I don't know how we lost the match.
Yeah, it was a bit bewildering. A lot of emotions. I must say, Mark Atkinson, as far as 3-2 defeats go, I feel okay. What's your mood?
Frustrated, to be honest, because, like Gemma said, Scotland played really well last night. There were lots of positive signs, particularly in an attacking sense, in a mindset sense. But the same feelings continue to haunt Scotland. Individual errors at the back and not taking chances at the other end of the pitch. Deflation as well, I suppose, despite the signs of positivity from the team.
Well, we'll try not to be too negative, Norman, today. But we have to analyse the fact that it was a defeat for Scotland. But I think a lot to take from the performance, and we'll get into all of it. Gemma, what would you make of the performance overall?
I think if you take the scoreline out of it, it was a hugely positive performance. And also if you take the 3 errors out of it, if you take the 2 penalties, which we can talk about it in a minute. I don't want to talk about it right now. And also that pass from Kenny McLean into Billy Gilmore, which he just wasn't ready for. You take that out of it, I thought it was a hugely positive night. We went to 4 at the back, and lo and behold, it didn't kill us. Players that were kind of sort of posted. I think that's harsh to say posted missing, who were really, really tired at the Euros and just couldn't perform. All of a sudden we're back. Napoli fans must be loving the fact they've got McTominay and Gilmore in their midfield, because I thought they were excellent. We saw John McGinn again. And then the players that came on, Steve Clarke rolled the dice. He came on, he did positive changes up front. He played new players and they all looked positive. They all looked like they had an impact in the game. So that, for me, that performance was a performance which we haven't seen from Scotland in a long time. It's a performance that we all hoped we were going to see at the European Championships, and we didn't. So for me, those are the positives. And also going 2-0 down in the fashion we did, to come back to 2-2 and push for that winning goal, that was also kind of really pleasing from my perspective, and something I haven't seen from Scotland. And there was lots of questions before the game. Lots of questions around about Steve Clarke, lots of questions around about he just does the same old thing. We saw the team that came out, and I think there was probably perhaps, I'm going to steal your word, Mark, a bit of deflation, saying he had an opportunity to do something different. He's gone for the same players. But, Steve Clarke proves us wrong quite often, and I think he proved us wrong again last night in terms of he knew what he could get from that team and those players. So performance-wise, I'm happy. I think there's lots of positives there. Performance that doesn't win you games, goals does. And that's the problem we've got. It's that little bit at the end. It's the bit that matters. And you look at Poland and you look at Robert Lewandowski on the bench, and you're like, I said it last night when I was watching the game. How are you winning? How are you even smiling? How can you smile after that? How can you have the audacity to smile after that? You've been absolutely pummeled for 90 minutes. And it was a frustration of a player coming back that you just wanted to like get the ball and kick it at them, because you shouldn't have 3 points.
Nobody likes a defeat, Mark, but I think context is such an important aspect of last night's game, because I kind of feared the worst a little bit after the Euros disappointment. Poland are a good team. I suspected we would go to a back four, so a change of shape always poses potential problems for a team. But I was really enthused by kind of how we played. I couldn't believe it. We were losing at half-time 2-0, and then we roared back into it. But yeah, defeat is a defeat. In terms of the overall performance for you, how pleased or otherwise were you?
Yeah, pretty pleased. I liked the way we started the match. We started the game with energy. We started the game with purpose. I liked being in a back four because it just allows you to have an extra body going forward. The back three was created for Kieran Tierney and Andy Robertson when they play together. So when we don't have either of those players, going to a back four makes sense. I thought we were very dangerous in the left-hand side. Robertson reminded me of the Robertson I see at Liverpool because he was playing in a more familiar role. I really liked Billy Gilmour.
Gilmour shoots and scores! What a start to the second half that is! Billy Gilmour rifles the ball home! It's gone through the goalkeeper!
I thought he came into his own without Callum McGregor in midfield. That's not to say that Callum McGregor wasn't missed, because his skill set is fantastic, but it did allow Gilmour to have more prominence. Scott McTominay put in a monstrous performance, the performance that I love to see from him. So those were huge positives. I liked the way the crowd stayed with the team, because it had been very easy for the fans to get downbeat, but I felt there was there was a bit of patience with the side, that Hampden felt in a good place. So those were all positives, and I really enjoyed watching Ben Doak come on. I enjoyed seeing Ryan Gauld in the Scotland shirt as well. And the character of the team to come back from 2-0 down, 2-0, it could be very easy for Scotland to have just sulked going in at half-time, because they didn't deserve to be 2-0 down on balance of play. But they came out, they regrouped, Steve Clarke obviously got them going, and that showed that there's still spirit and togetherness in that camp. So yeah, those are the undoubted positives for me. And we were up against a Poland team that I'm not sure Poland are that good in Nations League A context. That felt like two teams towards the kind of bottom end of that section of the tournament. But we are up against a substantially greater calibre opposition than we used to under Steve Clarke. And it was good to see us actually be positive, listen to the fans and the criticism. But ultimately, it still stings, because you've lost the match. We should have had at least a point in the bag, and it's going to make life very difficult going forward in this Group A, because the challenges, I think, get greater against Portugal and Croatia.
Yeah, you mentioned Scott McTominay there. I thought Poland looked slightly terrified of him at times, which was great to see. He was a colossus, and obviously both the Napoli new boys, getting on the score sheet for Scotland. Gemma, when you look back at the match as the Scotland squad will, and the sort of avoidable nature of the Poland goals, that's kind of almost got to be a positive as well, because moving forward, if we can just eradicate these mistakes, then things will be okay.
Yeah, I always say that there's two types of errors. There's systematic errors, and then there's individual errors. If you have systematic errors, you're in trouble, because that's not just one person making one mistake. That's the whole system's failing. That's a lot more work. When you have individual errors like you did last night, those are the things which are it's moments of concentration. It's also match sharpness. So Ralston hasn't played a lot of games. It's tiredness at the end of the game. Grant Hanley, he's actually done the right thing. He's pushed Zelensky all the way over. He's narrowed the angle, and for the life of him, if you ask him today why he did that, he will not be able to give you an answer, because there won't be an answer. It's just something that's happened.
Down the left-hand side. Oh no, it's sliding. It's a penalty.
What is he doing?
Penalty. A ludicrous decision has resulted in a penalty, and Poland are going to get the chance to win it here. right at the end. McGinn gave it away. It's Hanley's challenge. It's so clumsy. And Poland have a penalty right at the last knock-ins.
It's a ridiculous decision to go into that tackle from Grant Hanley. The Polish player had taken it wide. Even if he got a shot on goal, he was far too wide for it to really be causing any problems. In fact, he'd taken a touch. He was running out the pitch. Why go into this challenge? Ludicrous.
Also, Tom, sorry for me, a professional footballer that goes with their left foot there is absolutely astonishing.
It's wild.
Go with your left foot in terms of getting your body.
Those types of things are the things that we need to eradicate, and those types of things are things that you can. I can't give you the answer of how you do it, but individually it's a concentration moment. It's something that he's got that in the back of his head now. So next time he's in that situation, he's not going to dive in. He's not going to do that because he knows the consequence of that. But I would say that in terms of the team, the performance, and even the matches that we've got coming up, I think this is a real positive opportunity. Steve Clarke's gone out there and he said, we're not going to go out here to be defensive, to try and nick a goal, to try and nick a point. We're going to go out there and we're going to show a different style of Scotland than I've shown before. I'm resetting it here. So I expect us to play against Portugal, and I might be wildly off, in quite a similar fashion. I expect us to be positive. I expect us to be aggressive, because that's what you get. That's when you get the best out of these players, and that's when you get the best out of Scotland. When we are collectively aggressive, when we're tenacious. What I liked about Scotland last night, it wasn't just the tenacity that we showed, it was the quality of some of our play as well. It was the quality of some of our movement, our passing interlinks. McTominay, absolutely, he was a monster in there, but he still made some wrong decisions. So you've still got the opportunities there that, yes, he was great, but there was opportunities. I think it was Christie, he could have slipped in a couple of times, where we could have had those opportunities. So there was more there for us to take from that game. Those are the bits that probably excite me about this Scotland squad, is that we created so many opportunities. We took some of them, we didn't take all of them, and there were more to be there. That's the finessing that needs to be done within this team. The defensive things, I think we can get rid of. I think they can go. And I know we've been saying that for a long time in terms of self-sabotage. We make this mistake. But we were also... Our system wasn't supportive, really, of us being a positive attacking team. It was supportive of two players being positive and attacking and everybody working around that. I think this suits the majority of the players a lot better. You also got to think that there are players that can still come back into that system. And that's exciting as well, because those players that are not in there, that can slot back in there, that can raise the level again, gives us great opportunity. So even though it's 1-13 and there's stats which will be banded around and all, I think it was a reset last night. I think it was an absolute reset last night. And I think this group of players, plus the smattering of the new ones coming in, can take us forward into that qualification campaign.
Yeah, the back three was always a bit of a formation of convenience for the Kieran Tierney, Andy Robertson conundrum. Will a back four be the shape of things to come? Let's hear a little bit more from inside the Scotland camp right now. Here's what head coach Steve Clarke and striker Lyndon Dykes had to say after the match.
Obviously disappointed to lose a game like that, a game that we shouldn't lose. But if you make errors at this level, you get punished, and we got punished severely for the errors that we made in the game. Lots of good things, but still a defeat. It's not about picking out individuals. We never do that. I've never done that, and I'm not going to start now. We win as a team, we lose as a team. We'll go away. We'll analyse the game, and we'll speak in camp. I think if I analyse the performance, I have to be happy with the performance.
There's been a few changes on the training pitch, and obviously new faces as well. And we're working on a lot of things. I think tonight you could see we were trying to press high and be a dominant team on the ball and try and make chances, and we've done all that. Just wasn't our night tonight, and like I said, we have to turn it around for Sunday. You know, just their third goal obviously was disappointing, but that's football. We're all in it together. We're all teammates, and we have to make sure we bounce back on Sunday and put this one behind us, because it was a good performance, but there was mistakes in there, and individually that was the point that made us lose a game tonight. We've still got the majority of the core in this team still here, so we know what we're capable of. And we just have to go back to the basics and stick together and be a family like what we are, and I'm sure the results come again. And yeah, football isn't always easy sailing.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
So that's the temperature inside the Scotland camp. In terms of four at the back, Mark Atkinson, I don't know how you felt about it. 4-2-3-1, the players, as far as I could see, they looked comfortable. They looked enthused playing that system. It looked like it was familiar to them.
Yeah, well, I think the back four is more natural to the players that played last night. Andy Robertson, that's where he operates for Liverpool, and Tony Ralston plays when he plays for Celtic. He plays in a back four as well. Hanley and McKenna can play in twos or threes, essentially for their clubs, but I thought they looked more secure, or something more comfortable. The problem you have when you play a 4-2-3-1 is that you don't have that extra body naturally in defence, and you leave yourself more exposed, and it's that risk and reward that we've been talking about for Scotland for quite some time now under Steve Clarke. And I think what we showed last night is if we do open up into a 4-2-3-1 and play more expansively, it will be more exciting going forward, but we also have to accept that we will expose defenders, and as a result, against better teams, they will create more chances and put us under more pressure. And that's the problem that I think Steve Clarke has wrestled with throughout his time as Scotland head coach, is if you play a back three or essentially a back five, you're going to stay in games longer and keep the game tighter for longer. If you go out and play this almost slightly more basketball type football, it's going to be more exciting, but you are essentially going to let good teams have more chances, and that's a concern of mine. And I feel the criticism of Steve Clarke sometimes is over the top when tactics are discussed and systems and mindsets are discussed, because we are not blessed with world-class defenders or forwards. In fact, you would say that we actually have, with the greatest respect, at this level, a fairly average group of defenders and forwards, so you have to protect them. And if you are too expansive, you will get hurt. And it's about finding that balance. And I'm hoping that Clarke is going, right, I'm going to be a little bit more creative and forward-thinking in that regard. But we've got to be mindful that if we open up too much, then we will get really hurt by strong teams. It's just the pool of players that we have at our disposal. And we go to Lisbon on Sunday against a Portugal team that are pretty handy. They're ageing, but they've still got some very good players. And how do you approach that match? Do you go with the same type of mentality as you did at home against Poland? Some would argue that would be naive, because Portugal are better than Poland. So it poses a few more questions, I suppose, performance last night. There'll be an expectation level that we keep playing like that. But we have to remember that against Portugal and Croatia, you play at that, you could get hurt even more. So really difficult one. Loads of positives there, but that formation, I'm not convinced we'll see it all the time. I think away from home, we have to be more secure.
Interesting. Very briefly, Gemma, if you don't mind, just a quick word about Ryan Gauld and Ben Doak making their Scotland international debuts last night. It was obviously a huge moment. I think probably for Gauld in particular, 10 years since he was in the squad and all that, and there's been this kind of clamour from some quarters. How did you think they performed?
Yeah, I think they did reasonably well when they came on. Obviously, Ben Doak involved in Scott McTominay's goal. I think that there was plenty of enthusiasm from Ryan Gauld. Bit of an audacious attempt at the end of the match. Maybe we could have kept that one on the ground, but I don't think they looked out of place. I think they were additive when they came on. A lot of people talk about substitutes as being impact players. I don't think what we did lessened at all, and I think it's just reward for Ryan Gauld to make his debut. It's just how much can they add to the Scotland squad moving forward? Are those three going to be the impact players that we see regularly coming on to add that extra spark? Will they start? We don't know. There's still some match time, and Ben Doak's not really played at all, so he needs match time in there. For a guy that's not played, it's exciting to see what he will be like, one, when he plays, and two, when he gets a bit more experience. Let's not forget how old he is, and Ryan Gauld. It would be interesting to see how he slots in if he does get a start. But I understand from Mark's perspective, in terms of from a coaching perspective, when you go away from home and to be a bit more mindful, a bit more defensive. I just want to go out all out attack. I just say trust your defenders. I think last night when you think about Poland and the chances they made, I can't remember them making chances. I can remember us giving them the ball and giving them opportunities because we were. I think that the first goal, it was, as I said before, a poor ball in from Ken McLean. I think that even the penalty, the second penalty was a square pass, I think, by McTominay. We cut that out. Then we protect our defence. So part of protecting your defence is by being sensible in possession. But yeah, I get it. I was a goalkeeper. I'm all about defence. No, let's just go and attack. Let's be fearless.
Well, special mention, I think, as well to Tony Ralston, who had a difficult Euros. And last night, obviously, gave away the penalty, but I thought he was good yesterday.
That guy has got resilience.
Yes.
And you have to, and I think it's always hard when people make individual errors, right? It's harder for Grant Hanley because he can't do anything about it right now. He can't make an impact on that match. And for Anthony Ralston, he had a tough Euros and he made an error last night. But you know what? He picked himself up and he didn't let his head drop in it, and he made positive impacts in the match. And that's what I like about him.
For a little while, I comforted myself that Scotland's performance at the Euros wasn't the worst performance of the Euros. It was actually Cristiano Ronaldo, who took about 1 million shots at goal in 5 matches and never scored. But then he goes and scores last night. 39 years of age, 900 career goals apparently now, 131 in 213 caps. Even more caps than you, Gemma. Unbelievable. And we face them on Sunday, Mark. I hear what you're saying about worrying about the back, but do you think you will stick with this formation for Portugal now, Mark? Steve Clarke, that is?
Oh, good question. Yeah, difficult one for Steve Clarke and John Carver and the rest of the coaching team to ponder. I suspect he will, because of the positivity that has come from playing like that in that system last night. I suppose it's about how you play within that formation. Do you ask players to be a little bit more reserved in terms of going forward? I think if he was to go back to a back three and Scotland lose heavily, he'd be opening himself up for even more criticism. And I think it probably would be the wrong move. You can still play 4-2-3-1 and be pragmatic. Of course you can, and that's what Scotland will have to do. They'll have to be very mindful of who they're up against. I don't think Poland are that good, and that's probably where my frustration comes from. I watched Poland at the Euros as well and thought, you know what, if we're going to get a positive result in this Nations League campaign, it's going to be against them because they don't look special. I think last night emphasised that. Some would argue that Portugal aren't that special, but they still have a lot of individual talents that can hurt Scotland. And going to Lisbon and Stade de Luz is not an easy place to go by any stretch of the imagination. They have a very strong record there. So yeah, I hope he sticks with the back four, certainly, because I think the back four is the way forward with the current players that we have in the squad. It's maybe what you do ahead of them. Do you maybe tinker the strategy and potentially bring in a couple of different players? I'm not sure, but he'd be mindful to say to the guys that played last night, you know, you did pretty well. Let's go again, but be very mindful of the fact that we are playing a step up in quality, because we are. This will be a difficult match on Sunday night. Be a real test.
Gemma, for you, will it be just the same kind of thing from Steve Clarke's side, do you feel, against Portugal? And do you feel we should just go for it, handbrake off?
So I think I agree with Mark. I think that now he's gone with the four and he's shown the success those players can have in that formation. I think that if he goes back to a back three, I can't see, one, it fitting those players, and two, there being much positivity come out of it. I think you'll get more leeway from the fans and the public if he goes with a four and it doesn't quite work, because we understand we're building something here. I also agree that there's different ways in which you can play that 4-2-3-1. You can play it with those two being more defensively minded. You can be slightly more defensive in that shape if you want to be. However, saying that, Jonathan, I just want to go for it.
Yeah.
I would love for us to go there and make a statement about, and be the team that says it doesn't really matter where we go. This is who we are. This is our identity, and this is how we play. I would love for us to have I'm not going to say arrogance, confidence to do that, because I thought we showed a lot of confidence and self-belief. And this is what this group does, because we're pretty unforgiving when things don't go well in Scotland.
Yep.
So you have to have an immense amount of self-belief within yourself and within your group about what you're capable of. Because there wasn't a huge amount of self-belief and confidence from us going into that last night. I was pretty negative about it. And do you know what? Every time they kind of win you over, I want us to take that, and I want that to be our identity. I want that to be the identity. So I'm all for it. I'm all for it if we go there, if we attack, if we show great football. If we lose, we lose. I'm okay with that right now. I am. I'm not worried about the stat, because I see a different Scotland team. I saw a different Scotland team. If we go there and I see the same Scotland team, that's when I'm worried.
Finally tonight, a huge match in the SWPL with Hibs and Hearts meeting in an eagerly anticipated Edinburgh derby, 7:35 kickoff, and it's live on the BBC Sports Scotland website and on the BBC iPlayer. Second versus fourth in the SWPL. Gemma, just how big a game is this? For a while now, it's been a kind of top three in Scottish women's football. Glasgow City, Celtic and Rangers. Are these Edinburgh sides now the disruptors?
This is really interesting, because Hibs for many a season now have been the most frustrating team that I've watched. Like, inconsistency. And I know I used to play for Hibs, and I know a lot of the Hibs people, but inconsistency has been their thing. It's been they've been flattering to deceive. They've brought in new players every single season. They'd play great one week, and the next week you wouldn't recognise what that team was. So I would suggest that Hibs' start to the season has been one, their best start to the season, but probably two, the best start to the season of any team in that league, regardless of what Rangers had done with goals, etc. I think the thing that opened people's eyes was when they drew with Celtic 0-0. I think that was a bit of a wake-up call, and I think that started the conversation that you spoke of there, Jonathan, round about, are there disruptors? Are we talking about a top five now? I think that this is a really interesting match. Take out the fact that it's Hearts versus Hibs, it's the Edinburgh derby, and then you go to actually the type of football and the recruitment that's been done through the summer from Hibs in particular. There's been a lot of movement across the city, and I think the big ones have been Ciara Grant and Kathleen McGovern. And Kathleen McGovern has been a young player, she's not so young now, but a player that's been around for a number of years now, who's always been on the cusp of doing something really, really big. And I think she seems to have found her groove at Hibs. She's scored 6 in 5. And with both Celtic and Rangers not playing because they're in Champions League action, this is a real opportunity for Hibs to go. They're currently undefeated, to go for 5 wins out of 6 and open up a little gap at the top of the table, which, to be honest, before the start of the season, nobody would say that was happening. So this is a really exciting match tonight, and I'm really intrigued to see how it goes.
Guys, thank you very much. We've massively overrun. The producer will not be happy, but it's been thoroughly enjoyable. Thank you very much indeed. That is all we've got time for. My thanks to Gemma Fay and Mark Atkinson. And remember, you can watch Hibs versus Hearts in the SWPL live on the BBC Sports Scotland website and BBC iPlayer tonight. Sports Sound on BBC Radio Scotland will have full commentary of Portugal versus Scotland in the Men's Nations League Group A on Sunday evening from 7. And of course, we'll be here with the Scottish Football Podcast bright and early every weekday morning. So make sure you don't miss out. Just follow or subscribe wherever you listen. Scottish Football, the gift that keeps on giving. Thanks for listening.
This is the shocking moment English football has been dreading.
My name is Moses Swabu, and I used to be a professional footballer. But then I got in deep with organised crime and became a match fixer operating in the English League.
A match-fixing investigator has highlighted 2 matches he says appear to have suspicious betting patterns.
How honest are you going to be with me? This is 100%. Join me for Sports Strangers Crimes presents Confessions of a Match Fixer. Listen on BBC Sounds.